I think one thing that's exciting about these about artificial intelligence for sociology, political science, economics, history, anthropology, is the ability to spin up digital doubles of
Yep.
human agents inside this space. Historically, I thought that okay, we're gonna first we need to construct an agent out of these systems, a persona, that corresponds to an individual, and then maybe if we can get that 90% accurate, maybe if we have them interact with each other, maybe we'll get those interactions predictive, like 75% of the time, and then maybe if they're interacting as groups, we'll predict them at 50% accuracy. That there'll be some degradation from the integrity of an individual agent that we're predicting their opinions to predicting a whole field of interacting agents. And it looks like with increasing work of my group and others groups that this may be reversed. And this is something we see in ecology and evolution. In ecology, the more stable predictions come from the more complex interactions between component parts in these systems. And so I actually think that there is enormous potential for looking at collective behavior in a predictive way, using simulated
Got it.
digital doubles of
Yep.
humans in these systems. And I think this is increasingly being used and generated by both tech firms, but also by computational social scientists to build, in some cases, simulations of hundreds of thousands of agents
So
and
did you
growing.
see this as actually having a role coming up in potential policy implications?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you think about, what are the implications of this or that policy on voting or on segregation in neighborhoods or of polarization or of, government or non-governmental support. I mean, this allows us to spin up worlds in which we can test things with really highly resolved, not just again individual agents, but systems of agents that may in fact even be more robust than our models of individual agents. And
Really
so
cool. Really
yeah,
cool.
it's exciting.
So I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
Oh no, I was just going to say it's also dangerous because who else is
Yes.
going to be
Yes.
doing this?
Yes.
Authoritarian governments are going to
Right.
be playing and replaying their messages. I mean, all kinds of. I mean, these are technologies that have the potential to be used for good and evil. So we need to use them for good.
Well,
You know?
it's really fascinating. Even in the communication space, which I'm in, there are groups that are working on what they're calling as synthetic audiences, where they can program it and say, look how different messages have been received by different audiences. And if you say X, Y, or Z, this is likely how that's going to resonate. And so that ability in many, many, many different fields is shaping the implications of the choices that we're making. When we think about, again, the models coming together, learning from each other, creating societies together, where are the humans as those things evolve? And again, when you say some of there's upside to that and excitement about that, but when you talk about societies being formed, where do humans fit into these societies being formed, and how do we maintain that degree of control, if that's the right word?
Mhm. I think it's a big and important question. I think that, for example, we see when we put agents together that have the distribution of, for example, political preferences that we observe in society at large, we see them polarizing at roughly the same rates that we see, and for
Unbelievable.
roughly the same reasons, for elite bias, for self-confirmation, biases, for all these different kinds of things. So I think how are agents likely to be used in the future? Well, individuals will have agents that are working on their behalfs, right? That's one of the ways and of course, wealthier corporations and individuals will have more agents that are contracting for them, that are prospecting for relevant information, that are making deals on their behalf, et cetera. And so I think one concern about about the ways in which uh, you know basically human biases are built into these models is that it could accelerate the way in which individuals cluster and clump into
Yes.
segregating groups. And so I think that's one big concern. Scientists have shown that you can also program these kinds of agents to limit the degree to which people believe in conspiracy theories, and they can broach conversations between otherwise disparate groups. But on average, that's not how it is that people will program them to be used. And so I think, thinking about how it is that platforms can build in systems that facilitate broader collaboration and conversation versus individuals having kind of untrammeled access to build agents that are trustworthy to themselves, but that then kind of accelerate the degree to which they're filtering their information is problematic. We had a paper just a couple of months ago at Nature Communications where we showed that that online systems like Twitter's community notes, now X's community notes, that kind of that gradually made information accessible to users about whether or not others perceived their information as misinformation or disinformation, was actually much more successful than just letting individuals as vigilantes, shoot at each other's information online, because individuals were not only rude and sometimes wrong, but they resulted in the people who were being chastised retreating further into their information bubbles. So they were actually exploring novel political and civil information when they were basically kind of like identified as promulgating misinformation. And so I think that it's going to be a kind of a Red Queen race where individuals are using agents in ways that are likely going to lead to greater echo chambers and discriminated and segregated groups. And I think that platforms are going to have the burden to facilitate exchanges and arbitrage and conversation that brings the civil square together again. And I think those are two forces that are both are going to be at work.